Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, the Leon Black situation continues to escalate. Now, we've already talked about how he has stepped down and how there was a boardroom blow-up between him and one of the co-founders of Apollo Global, Joshua Harris. And all of that hinged on Leon Black's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and the fact that he was not being truthful about how much money he gave to Jeffrey Epstein, how much money he supposedly paid to Jeffrey Epstein, and he certainly wasn't being truthful about the extent of their relationship. And that has now been put on blast. The fact that he was being dishonest about his relationship with Epstein from the very beginning has led him to the point where he is now no longer the CEO of Apollo Global. Now, he is still chairman of the board, right? But the question is, for how much longer? And in my estimation, it can't be for much longer. I would think that Leon Black is going to be completely forced out in the foreseeable future by partner Joshua Harris. And as more information becomes available about Leon Black and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, I think that you're going to see the pressure just ramp up. And eventually he's going to just be way too toxic to be kept around in any capacity. Same as like Les Wexner. So I would expect to see Leon Black completely out of the picture at Apollo much sooner than later. Because again, let's remember, folks, this isn't about friendships. This isn't about being buddy-buddy when we're talking about these sorts of financial institutions. It's about increasing the wealth for their investors and increasing the wealth for those who work for the company. That is their one and only goal. They don't care about morality. They don't care about doing things the right way. They don't care about doing things on the up and up. They care about making money, point blank, period. And these hedge funds and these financial institutions, they are the last group of people that anyone should ever think cares about them. Because they do not. You know from your own personal relationships how people get funny over money. Now imagine that on a grand scale. And imagine all of the backstabbing, conniving, stealing, and straight-up scumbaggery going on a daily basis. It's enough to make your head spin, honestly. You know, we were talking about Leon Black, and I said there's no way that Leon Black gave Jeffrey Epstein all of that money for his advice. Zero chance. Now, what was that money given to Jeffrey Epstein for? I'm not sure. We don't have anything to lead us one way or the other right now, not even anything circumstantially. But there are big questions, folks. And the article we're going to read this morning from Bloomberg is asking one of those very same questions that I've been asking. How could Jeffrey Epstein mislead somebody like Leon Black so easily? It just does not make sense. Now, I'm sure most of you have dealt with people like Leon Black in your life. Maybe not as rich, but people that are very powerful, very much a narcissist, and the type of person that would never cede even one little bit of power on their own. Now, think about the person that you've met like that in your life or you've worked with, and then multiply that by about 5,000. And that's the kind of person Leon Black is. So, you mean to tell me that somebody like Jeffrey Epstein was able to lead Leon Black around by the nose to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars? And Leon Black was none the wiser, didn't do any legwork on who Jeffrey Epstein was or what he was about, huh? That's what you would have us believe. I'm sorry, but I do not believe that. And neither does Timothy L. O'Brien, who is the author of our article today from Bloomberg.com. Headline: Could Jeffrey Epstein have played Leon Black so easily? Timothy L. O'Brien, author. Leon Black and others close to him apparently had ready advice for anyone weighing financial guidance from the late Jeffrey Epstein. Part of the challenge of working with Epstein was separating the good ideas from the bad ones. Here's a tip, okay? Hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein and taking advice from him was an absolutely terrible idea. And then lying about the extent of that advice and the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein just compounded your terrible idea. That might not have been the only challenge, of course. Epstein, who hanged himself in his Manhattan jail cell in 2019, allegedly, after being charged with sex trafficking, had a sordid personal history that included prison time for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Now, imagine you're Leon Black, and Jeffrey Epstein comes into your life, however that may occur. And now you know that he's already been to prison for solicitation for prostitution of a minor. Now, there's a lot there, right? First of all, how can a minor be a prostitute? Second of all, how can Leon Black look at that charge, shrug his shoulders, and say, you know what? This guy rehabilitated himself for his 4 hours a day in prison. Yeah, he really, really, really worked on himself while he was leaving jail, the stockade every day, to continue to abuse girls. So Leon Black wants us to believe, folks, okay, you and me and everybody else out there, that he had no idea, that he's just a doddering old fool, and he was led astray by an evil, bad man, Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, everybody in the world knew what Jeffrey Epstein was at this point. But according to Leon Black, one of the richest, most successful hedge funders ever, he had no idea. Along the way, he settled, fended off, or never faced justice for other charges involving horrific sexual abuse and rape, with powerless girls, teenagers, and young women as the common denominator. So all of that was occurring. All of that had occurred. There were rumors. There was jail time. There were countless numbers of girls who had come forward and spoken about what Jeffrey Epstein had done. And yet Leon Black felt it would be appropriate to be in business with Jeffrey Epstein. Felt it would be appropriate to give him the keys to the castle, just like Les Wexner. And these are supposed to be some of the smartest people on Wall Street, huh? It's no wonder that the financial world is in shambles. His personal reading list was stocked with such titles as SM 101, A Realistic Introduction, Slavecraft, Roadmaps for Erotic Servitude, and Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners. He also made a living as a financial advisor. You know what? I don't even like that term anymore. I'm not even going to call him a financial advisor. I'm going to call him a financial grifter, because that's what he was. What was he advising financially for these people to do? I mean, give me a break. Somebody like Leon Black, who has over $440 billion of other people's money that he is in charge of investing, is going to Jeffrey Epstein for financial advice? How could anybody be confident having their money parked with Apollo Global? I mean, are you kidding me right now? Jeffrey Epstein? That was the engine that was making the train go up the hill behind the scenes? Are you kidding me right now? That's what you would have us believe. I'm sorry, But I do not believe that the Coney Island hot dog vendor was that smart and was that quick financially that people like Leon Black had to have his services. Black, who stepped down this week as chief executive of the private equity juggernaut he co-founded, Apollo Global Management Incorporated, was one of Epstein's clients. Yeah, one of, a few clients that we know about, right? Les Wexner, Leon Black, Lebet Johnson, and, that's pretty much it. Now, I'm sure that there were plenty of other people who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein one way or the other that still have not been brought to the forefront. But we know that there are some heavy hitters that were involved with Epstein. And we know that there are some very powerful people who brought Jeffrey Epstein directly into their confidence and directly gave him access to not only their wealth, but the means to use that access and that wealth to abuse women and girls. It's indisputable at this point. He gave up his title after an internal power struggle erupted following the firm's inquiry into his relationship with Epstein. Now remember, that blow up inside of the boardroom is highly significant. That's not something that happens very often. And it doesn't happen very often and we hear about it. These kind of things are kept very close to the chest because the last thing anyone wants is there to be instability within the fund. They don't want investors getting spooked and bouncing, right? They want people to stick around, invest their money, and feel comfortable knowing that there's stability in the long term. But now you have the Jeffrey Epstein situation hanging over Leon Black and these reports that Joshua Harris and Mr. Black had themselves a bit of a blow up in the boardroom, and seems like Joshua Harris had a go at Leon Black. That's certainly what it seems like reading in between the lines here. Apollo's board of directors commissioned an outside law firm to examine the matter, and they found that Black hadn't participated in any of Epstein's crimes, but had paid him $158 million for financial machinations that saved at least $1 billion and maybe more than $2 billion in personal tax payments. So I can only imagine what sort of maneuvering and backwards-ass financial scumbaggery Jeffrey Epstein was on to get these tax breaks. I think that Leon Black should have a full audit placed on him, and I think that every single one of his financial transactions should be brought to light and looked at, because it's obvious that he was really, really, really in bed with Epstein. It's obvious that he was pumping big-time dough into Epstein's bank accounts. What isn't obvious, however, is the reasoning behind any of that. We don't know why he was doing this. Oh, for charity, for his advice. Must be some really damn good advice, huh? Or was it for something else entirely? Again, we don't know, and that's where we're at. That's the task that we find ourselves with right now, trying to figure out what exactly Leon Black's role ultimately was in all of this. Was he a bag man? Was there other things going on? We just don't know. What we do know, though, is that Leon Black has not been truthful, he has not been honest, and the extent of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is much deeper than he ever let on. There is no disputing that. It's just like the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. If you had nothing to hide, then why are you lying and being deceitful and playing the fool from the very beginning? If these people would have just come out and met this head on, they would have done themselves a lot more of a service than trying to hide, trying to obfuscate, trying to act like they don't even know these people or that these relationships weren't as solid as they really were. Because eventually that's all going to come out, right? That's not the kind of stuff that can be hidden forever, especially when these people start falling off, when they're not as powerful as they once were, and people who might have been scared to speak out of line or speak out of turn are now willing to spill the tea and talk about these people. And once they start losing power, you see a lot more of that. Paying $158 million to save at least $1 billion seems like a pretty good deal, right? It wasn't enough for Black. He also thought Epstein's $158 million fee could be deducted in its entirety on his tax returns. So basically what that's saying is that not only did he have Jeffrey Epstein on retainer to do whatever it is Jeffrey Epstein was doing, he then brazenly and shoving it in everybody else's face, writes off Jeffrey Epstein's services on his tax returns. So again, if you think this man is above money laundering or above backwards ass deals or sideways ass, smarmy ass deals, think again. Just because people are rich like this guy doesn't mean that they stop being greedy. In fact, it seems like the greed only increases. And we see that time and time and time again. These dudes don't know when enough is enough. And then eventually the greed gets the best of them and they get caught. Hopefully that's what happens with Leon Black. And I really hope, beyond hope, that a full forensic financial investigation is underway. Neat trick. Pay someone a boatload to save you a fortune in taxes, and then stick Uncle Sam with the bill. But Black believed he could squeeze out that extra $158 million because Epstein told him so. As it turned out, he couldn't. Somebody wasn't able to separate Epstein's good ideas from his bad ones. So this guy has all of this money, all of this power, all of this wealth, has built this huge, powerful-ass company. And then, on the advice of bitch-ass Jeffrey Epstein, thinks that he's going to write off the $158 million supposed fee paid to Epstein. You don't run that by your in-house lawyer? You don't run that by your Tom Hagen, your personal Tom Hagen? You don't run that by the law firm that's employed by the company or the legal counsel employed by the company? You just go ahead and go with it? What did your accountant have to say about that? I'm pretty sure that Leon Black isn't sitting around on TurboTax filing his own taxes, okay? So again, I ask you, what was this money for? And the Wall Street tycoon's inability to follow his own advice about Epstein is a curious thing. Black, 69, is worth about $10 billion and is as savvy and hard-bitten as they come. He shouldn't be easy to hoodwink. Exactly what I was saying yesterday. And now we're going to add some context to that in this article, right? But I was saying yesterday when we were talking about Leon Black that there's zero chance that this dude's getting dog-walked into anything by Jeffrey Epstein. Zero chance. Talk about eyes wide open. After all, he has quite a journey. His father, a Polish immigrant, was a successful investment banker and conglomerator who leapt to his death from a Manhattan skyscraper during a federal bribery investigation while Black was attending the Harvard Business School. And it all comes back to Harvard again, doesn't it? All of these people, it seems like, went to Harvard. Harvard, 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 Harvard. The Harvard crew. And now a ton of the new people in the new administration, the new Biden administration, also have went to Harvard. I don't know about you folks, but I've had a belly full of these Ivy League folks. My father was God to me, and then he committed suicide. Suicides, aren't usually committed by gods, Black told Bloomberg Businessweek last year. It took me years of therapy to get over that, and to figure out where he ended and I began. Hey, look, as much as I think Leon Black is a scumbag SOB, I don't relish in the fact that the dude's father leapt to his death. That must be brutally hard to lose your dad, especially if you look up to him and you have him in a godlike status, right? It must be terrible. But let's not sugarcoat it here. Leon Black's pops was obviously involved in some fraud, in some bad money business. And instead of facing the music, he decided to hop out of a window. So when we're talking about Leon Black and we're talking about the rest of these people, we have to understand that we're dealing with people who have been like this for generations, where the means justifies the end. And they're so full of hubris and they're so narcissistic that they would rather die than face the music. Black's early career took him to Drexel Burnham Lambert Incorporated, where he was junk bond king Michael Milken's lieutenant and part of a clan of young toughs who upended finance and helped launch the massive wave of corporate takeovers until the firm collapsed amid fraud charges against Milken. Well, more fraud charges. His dad, out the window. His mentor, Michael Milken, fraud. And Leon Black, last man standing. Yet we're to think that he is squeaky clean, huh? He is just squeaky clean. There's zero chance that he's squeaky clean, okay, folks? Look at the people he's been around. Look at his associates. And the cherry on top is just look at his tight relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Black and other Drexel alums launched Apollo in 1990, the same year their old firm went bankrupt. Black also became friends with Epstein sometime during the 90s and grew steadily impressed, like many titans, by Epstein's sterling connections in the arts, academia, and business. So again, another person who was willing to overlook what Jeffrey Epstein was, what he was doing, the kind of person he was, all because it justified the means and it justified the ends. And Leon Black and the rest of these people, they are an absolute embarrassment, okay? For people who are supposed to be so damn smart, how could they possibly think that we're going to believe that they're so stupid? Black said he knew nothing about his friend's abuse of minors and young women, but he was aware the predator had gone to prison. He believed his friend's excuse that the 14-year-old he solicited had lied about her age and believed he deserved a second chance. So, they continued to visit with one another in homes scattered around the world, and they continued to talk about money. Yeah, I'm sure that's all they talked about. I'm sure that they were laser focused on money. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was a braggart and a big mouth. You mean to tell me he wasn't talking about his conquests to his buddy Leon Black? Trying to make himself look better? Trying to pump his own tires? Of course he was, talking about all these young girls and this and that and the other thing. And the fact that Leon Black would believe this lame-ass excuse by Epstein tells you everything you need to know about the person Leon Black is. As in all things, Epstein, Black appears to have been a model of tolerance when it came to red flags in their financial dealings. According to a nifty story from Bloomberg News, Epstein felt empowered enough to terrorize the highly competent team Black had already put in charge of his personal finances. He laid claim to winning ideas that weren't his, promoted financial maneuvers that were easily picked apart, and was generally a disruptive and caustic force. So again, please folks, tell me, what was Jeffrey Epstein providing that all of these high-profile wonks that were around Leon Black couldn't provide? What was it that Leon Black needed from Jeffrey Epstein? That's the question I'm posing to all of you. Because it's rather obvious that Leon Black's team his financial team, knew that Epstein was a faker, knew that he was a blowhard, and knew that he was no good for Leon Black or the company. Yet Leon Black ignores all of these top-notch advisors that he had brought in and had around him, and instead defers to Jeffrey Epstein. On the other hand, Epstein seemed to have a talent for tax avoidance. When some estate planning miscues threatened to stick Black and his children with billions of dollars in tax payments, Epstein got busy. One sleight of hand lasted 9 months and involved a series of loans between Black and some trusts. Epstein said that magic act alone saved Black $600 million, according to Bloomberg News. On it went from 2012 to 2017, to the tune of $158 million in fees, then some arguments about fees, fractured trust, and the end of a close relationship. Yeah, I don't buy any of that. The whole fractured the relationship. More like Leon Black saw what was coming down the pipe, someone tipped him off, and he started to distance himself. That's more like what it means to me. Because, they had a breakup. Yeah, right. Give me a break. And all of the money that was being moved through shell companies and trust funds and all of that, again, that all needs to be audited. I am sure that there was some sort of malfeasance occurring. Many of Apollo's clients began distancing themselves from the firm as more details emerged since 2019 about Black and Epstein's relationship. Perhaps it was only a matter of time before Apollo found it necessary to oust Black, who was staying on as chairman in what may prove to be something more than a ceremonial role. And again, I don't even think he'll stay on in that capacity. I think when all the dust clears and all of the battle lines are drawn, that Joshua Harris is going to have his way, and Leon Black is going to be persona non grata within Apollo Global. If Apollo's board hoped its investigation of the Black-Epstein nexus might provide closure, it's wrong. The report raises as many questions as it answers, begs for more transparency, and leaves anybody who can't afford to pay $158 million to save billions, which is almost everybody, tuned in to the obvious. Leon Black is not the kind of guy to get so easily played. So, tell us more. And Mr. O'Brien hits the nail on the head here. There is a lot more to this story. Leon Black is not the kind of man to get dog-walked, and he's certainly not the kind of man to get bamboozled by a low-end, low-level grifter like Jeffrey Epstein. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. To everybody who has helped donate to the podcast and help support the show, thank you folks so much. All right, everybody, I will be back later on, and we will see what the hell is going on then. Catch y'all later.